Welcome to Flourish. I am so excited to be able to bring you a platform that is dedicated to equipping you for impact. Welcome back to Flourish. Tonight's episode is an interview. I started Flourish with the purpose of equipping women for impact in the areas of faith, leadership, and womanhood. So it was important for me not just to be on here talking and to give you access to me, but also to give you access to other people that are championing these areas and doing well in these areas. So I pray that as you listen to the stories and the journeys of other women, that you are not only encouraged and inspired, but that you are moved to act. You can rest assured that everyone who comes onto this platform has a purpose to equip you and propel you forward in the purpose that God has for you. I pray that you enjoy the interview. And with that being said, let's get into it. Welcome back to Flourish. I am so excited about today's interview with Candace. Candace is a coach who helps women build and execute on a strategy to exit corporate America and whatever job that they're in and begin a strategy to full-time entrepreneurship. So today we are going to be extracting some gems from Candace on how do we start? How do we gain the confidence and the courage to begin to build our exit plan? Candace is just going to give us so much good information. I'm so excited about this. So everyone, welcome Candace.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here, Sequoia. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you because it's so many elements to your story that I love, down to the fact that we both kind of have the exact same job in corporate America, all the way down to your special story about your child and all the elements that make you you. So I'm so excited and I would love to share you. I'm so excited to share you with our viewers. At what point did you begin to feel like my time in corporate America is wrapping up and I need to go?
So for me, and I want to preface this by saying, so I had a couple of points. About 9 years ago, I had started a catering events business. And at that point in time, I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm just feeling like it's time for me to be done, right? Mm-hmm. You fast forward, some things just didn't work out, didn't like that business, ended up back in corporate. Now, the moment that made me make my transition, so what had happened was I was delivering just a tremendous amount of value at the company. And I was doing a lot of teaching in the agile space and just raising up things for the business. And the executive sponsor, the CIO, he had just kind of given me wings. You know how it is in corporate to have an executive sponsor that just kind of okay, they sponsor you, like you're good, like go ahead. And so he was actually retiring. And when I found out about his retirement, I kind of had a flashback to some other things that had happened to me in corporate, where at least 4 or 5 years prior, my role had went away at the place I was at. And I remember at that moment when my role did go away 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I will never be here. Like I will never be here again. And so you fast forward to when I'm working in this company and the CIO announces he's retiring. What it feels like to me is that situation that I was in 4 or 5 years ago. It feels like somebody's clipping my wings. Like, okay, so all that freedom you had to express your ideas and bring this value, all of it is just coming to an end. And so that for me was like I've been here before. This is the last straw type of moment. Mm-hmm. And so, it wasn't one of those things where, some people have a wake up call when it's like, well, I've been mistreated or they've overlooked me. It wasn't that. It was a recognition that things are going to be different. And that freedom you had to bring value is changing. That's for sure going to change. And that's how I had that wake up call that, okay, the time is now. I'm already been an entrepreneur at heart. The time is now. And that's when I made my decision that within 12 months, I was going to be gone.
And so it was this feeling of I'm losing freedom. And I think that that's a good point to make about where to start, because a lot of us, we're in a situation where we may not even have freedom. A lot of people don't have freedom in their workspace, but a lot of people also are in that space where something is changing, and you can kind of feel like whether it's a reorg or things are changing, you feel that loss of freedom, and it starts to prompt something in you. So, okay, so now you're prompted and you're like, okay, I need to start making a plan. What was step one? What did you do?
So step one was like, okay, what are the things that I know? Like, what am I good at, but what am I excited about all at the same time? And I went on this journey, Seporia. So it wasn't like out the gate, okay, things are clicking and they're moving.
Okay.
Right? I had went down a path of, what did I start? I started a blogging path because I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to blog. I'm going to be a blogger. That's the thing I'm going to do. And, entrepreneurship has always been my thing. And I'm a startup junkie, everything, right? And so I had started a blog on the social entrepreneurship path. It was called Mellow Maverick, Social Entrepreneurship. This is what I'm going to do. And I was kind of like, no, I don't like this. I don't like writing these 2,000 word articles for SEO and all this other stuff. No, this is not the path. And then I kind of taken like a more of a career centric lens. Just sort of, I knew what it was like to change careers very successfully, like in corporate. I understood that well. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'm going to do more of a career focus on.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't sit with me well either, because I knew that deep down, I wanted to help people get out. I didn't want to help them find a different career in corporate. Like, I wanted to help them find this freedom. And so I began to just say, all right. So that was along the time that I had started the podcast. And I'm like, okay, it's just this journey to help people do what they love and make a big impact. That was my journey. And so what I had finally decided is, wait a second, stop. Let's just look from an economical standpoint. What are the things that I know very well? Marketing and technology, super well. Where is there a need? I knew there was a need in the real estate space. And my mom, who's been an agent for 30 years, right? I've seen that up close. I've seen it as a child and knew what was going on. And that was when I had decided to launch my marketing agency. Okay. So I launched the marketing agency in the real estate space. And again, did it with speed because that was just my thing. Agile, lean startup is my thing. And so within 30 days, brought on the first client. Oh, great stuff, right? More clients come in. And I continue to have the agency to this day. But what I started to realize is, okay, the agency is great, but what is it that you talk about? Like, even to this day, you can look back on my social channels, even with the agency, I rarely talked about it on social. I always talked about how to help people get to that life of freedom and that path in entrepreneurship. And so now, whenever I'm talking to people about starting a business, it's never about, all right, well, let's just get you something that's going to make money.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
We don't start there. It's not the start, right? The start is the impact. Like, what's the impact that you want to make? Right? Because you stay committed to the things that you are passionate about and you feel fulfilled. And if you're trying to leave out of corporate to go do something else, when you have a choice to do anything, do you do just anything, or do you do the thing that lights you up? And so kind of that's where I've gone and said, okay, wait a second, let me just go all in. And I had people asking me forever, like, oh, so are you doing coaching? Are you doing coaching? Was never doing it. To go all in on that thing that lights me up and seeing women get to that place. So that's kind of been the progression.
What are some mindset shifts that you had to make in order to be successful?
Yeah, so I say a big one, and I kind of made this one quickly. This is kind of one that I had off the bat, but it's one that I see a lot of people struggle with. And that is the belief that you're going to be successful, but there is no option. There is no other option that I'm going to be successful. I had when I left, and I think it was maybe like the day before I left, the chief human resources officer was also retiring. And he had heard about the announcement. He's like, oh, we got to catch up. And he's like, maybe you'll come back to MGIC one day. And I just remember keeping my own composure just to say, yeah, no, not in my plan at all. And I remember that day that I left as well. I had my mom, which is not that we love our family, but sometimes not everybody understands the journey that you're on. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things you learn very quickly is there are certain people that you tell certain things to and then others that you don't. But that's another thing aside. But I remember my mom saying, well, I hope you left on good terms. Like, you never know when you're going to need to go back, or you never know this, or you never know that. And so it's so easy in a world where people who have the ability to get up, go create value in the world, get compensated in exchange for it, we're different animals. Mm-hmm. And so those that are around you, right, will likely, unless you happen to have grown up in an entrepreneurial family or you just have people who get it, they can easily inflict doubt, mm-hmm. right, and affect your confidence. And so for me, one of the big things is I had to be the strongest believer that, oh, this is going to be good. Like, life is going to be better when I leave than when I'm here, right? Because that affects how you move. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big one, just my confidence and belief in what was possible. Now I'm trying to think about other ones. And these are probably ones that I've learned along the way that I try to instill today. And that is sort of, it's almost this space of allowing, right? The whole allowing versus creating resistance. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a big believer in if you believe that, all right, this is the place you want to get to, you've got to start to live in it now, right? And don't necessarily throw up the blocks of, oh no, that's too hard, or making things harder than they need to be. So for me, the mindset shift was, it's not so much the harder I work, the farther I go. Mm. It's more the more strategic I am, the more open I am to the unexpected, the more prepared I am for the thing that will be. That's how I go farther. And that's been one that I've learned, right, over time. That wasn't one that I had coming out the gate, right? Because mm-hmm. I was, this is the name of my podcast, it's Ambition, Honey, and Hustle. Yeah. Right? Hustle, 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 hustle. So that's been one that's been sort of learned over time. The other one I would say is really understanding that as you get into full-time entrepreneurship, when you recognize that it's on you and you can embrace that from a happy standpoint, mm-hmm. like not, oh my gosh, it's on me. If I don't get another client, oh my gosh, the world is going to come crashing down and I'm going to lose this and this is going to happen. Because those type of things attract those type of things. Mm-hmm. But when you can get to a place where you recognize that, yeah, it's on me. And I'm excited that it's on me because I can do this and I can create this and I can create that. Like when you start to embrace a mindset of creation, like value creation in the world, and that's what I prioritize, the value that I can get out to people, that makes a big difference in your momentum.
You're married. How did you begin? And you also have children. Yes. How did you have that conversation with your husband to say, hey, like, this is over and I gotta exit? How did you have that conversation?
So I'm trying to remember like the exact day where I was like, I'm going to be done. I remember that my husband was like, okay, that's good. That's good. But just hold on because, you've been known to change your mind. Right. I remember that. And we would always have these times. Remember, my transition was like a 12-month transition. So we would always have these times when I would kind of say like, okay, I think I can just go, like, but I can just put in like the notice and go. And he's like, no, you have a plan, stick to it. Okay. So listen to the words that I'm saying though, because it started out with, you always change your mind, right?
Yeah.
It morphed into, no, you have a plan, stick to it, right? He's warming.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then it kind of morphed into more excitement on his part because of what I was creating. So remember, I told you I had started the agency while I was in corporate. So the fact that, yeah, I'm working this full-time job, but I now actually also have clients who are paying me money, and there is money that is coming in, like, oh, it's one of those moments where it's like, oh yeah, this is going to work.
Right. Yeah.
This is going to work. And so for us, my husband happens to be an entrepreneur himself too, right?
Okay.
For us, he also was a stay-at-home dad. So a lot of that, my children in the younger stages, a lot of that was him, and just sort of taking care of that. And I had that steady rock of income, benefits, everything, right? So that's a big deal for me to say, no, it's time to be done. But it came to a point where there was just this excitement because we both were connected in on just sort of the possibility. So he at the time was like, okay, well, as I'm leaving, that's his opportunity to get out the house. He now owns a bookstore in Milwaukee. And so ties were changing, and we could begin to see this picture of like, oh, it's going down.
Yeah.
Right. It is we have so much to create in the world. Oh my gosh. And that happy path of like value creation that I talked about. But it didn't start out that way. And so what I say to a lot of women who are, because I do hear it like, yeah, my spouse isn't really on board and that type of thing. I say, here, first off, it's a good opportunity for you to understand that your journey isn't necessarily his journey, even though it's connected. Right. And so you want to understand too, kind of like, where is his stake? Like, how does he feel about this? And what is the life that you all see together when you take this path? Right. That it's important to get that ironed out. And the other thing I would say too is I'm a big believer in don't just tell, show. Right. There's no reason that you can't start to begin to bring on clients in your business, bring in revenue in your business while you're still in your job. There's no reason you can't do it. Right. And so, or you have a spouse that's kind of like doubtful, and you leaving is either likely to destroy your marriage or whatever your relationship. That's another way. Like start now. Like start now and get excited about it. So that's one of the things. Let me bring that up, Sephora, because when you talked about the mindset shift, this is one that I missed. So I started to look at my job as really kind of like my investor. Like, hey, I get to build my business and get paid for it. I love it. And so I looked at it that way. So it was like an opportunity. It was a runway. It was like, okay, that's why I had my team going while I was in corporate. Some of the folks that are still with me to this day, my corporate job was paying for it, right? I had the runway to do and build. And so it's the same thing. Many times, women feel like because they are in this place of, oh my gosh, I don't like this, and this is not what I want. Something went down at the job or whatever happened that day, that it's like, okay, I'm ready to quit tomorrow. Right. And I mean, you can do that if you want to, or you can begin to look at it differently and say, okay, this is going to do this, so I'm going to make this work for me. And I remember too, I had decided, so this was pre-COVID, I had decided like, all right, well, Wednesdays are going to be my work at home days. I don't care what's going on because my time is short here anyway. Wednesday, work from home, right? So that I have the time that I need to go and do that. I was doing podcast interviews during lunchtime. I would for my agency, I was working with a lot of agents here locally, so I could go out and visit at their office very easily, right? Beautiful, blessing, and get paid and still do what I need to do. So I would say show, don't tell, and get a connected path together on where you both see yourself on this journey when you make the move.
You know, how did you begin to think out of your job? And I'm going to say this because we are trained in our jobs to be, this time is theirs. 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 is their time. So to come out of that, you know, that thought process took some mindset shift. How did you begin to manage that? And did anybody notice that you were doing both?
I will tell, so let me answer the last question first and then come back. So I had gotten to a point where I just kind of didn't care. Like I always brought my all to my work and was known to bring just a quality. But if you were connected to me on social media, you saw the things that I talked about, right? If you listened to the podcast, you heard the things that I talked about. Mm-hmm. I didn't necessarily bring that into work, but I wasn't hiding it either because I knew that my future was larger than the time that I was there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. But when you talk about just sort of this 9 to 5 and how do we sort of break out of it? So for me, and I don't know how it is for everybody, some people have roles that are more flexible where, you know, you may be doing something on the evening, you may be working in the night, you may be working in the morning, but I had kind of came into that role and was always a proponent. I had a team, I had 12 direct reports. So I was always a proponent of flexibility. Like, I don't care when you are in the office. I care about results. That's it. I don't care. I'm not tracking you. I'm not following you. I don't care. I don't have time for that. And so that was the same attitude that I took for myself. Okay. And so I've always been a beg for forgiveness.
Yeah, don't ask for permission. I'd rather ask for forgiveness. Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. that was me. And so I had this sort of inherent personality of, Candace knows she wants to go somewhere. She's going to do it and figure out how to get this other thing done. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of what it was. So if your commitment to seeing yourself in a different place is strong enough, you figure out ways to say, maybe I'm going to get this one thing done here at 6 a.m. and let my team know I'll be in at 11. I'm still meeting my commitments. Now, if you're out of the blue switching up, like that's a whole nother story. Like that's a whole nother story. But if you have that leeway, I've always had that results over time personality. And that's just kind of, I kind of set that expectation for other people on how they interact with me. Like, I'm going to deliver out of this world. So I just need to go do this here and this here and that there.
I always ask my guests as a final question, what are some things that you would leave us with to just encourage us on our journey, specifically in your case, in our journey of entrepreneurship, of making that exit? What's some encouragement that you would give us?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is recognize that you have immense value. Immense value. Mm-hmm. If you had no value, you wouldn't be employed at the place that you are employed, right? And I say that one, Seporia, so much because, sometimes I hear that sort of like, but I don't really know. I don't know what I would do. I don't know I'm capable. And what I hear underlying is not that realization of all the value that you have brought thus far. That the only thing is you're just looking through a lens of you've brought that value to a particular person or company that has taken most of your time, that has given an assessment of your value based on their lens and what they believe that you are capable of, whether you can move forward, back, up, down, around, whatever it is. But when you start to recognize that you have value and you start to think about, knowing that I have value, what's the impact that I might want to make in the world? Mm-hmm. And then you layer on the fact and start thinking about, man, so I'm not making this impact in the world and I have so much value. What about the people who aren't hearing from me? What about the people who need me? What about the people who are waiting and don't know me yet and will never know me if I continue to stay in place?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's just what I would think about, is recognize that you have value. Take a second to realize the impact that you want to make in the world, and then think about how the world is continuing to operate without your presence, because you're focused on giving that value to one person who is in control of it.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Such good words of encouragement. Tell us how we can find you, how we can continue to connect with you, learn more about you, and possibly take part in your business and services.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, if there are any women that are listening that are in corporate, I recommend, I just created a new webinar, and it's called How to Go from Drained Out Corporate Employee to Thriving Businesswoman in 90 Days. And in that particular webinar, I do lay out some very specific steps. You can take it and you can run with it on your own if you would like. And that's at thriveinninetydays.com. And it's thriveinninetydays.com. So you can go there and jump into an upcoming webinar. The other thing is, I'm a big fan of Instagram. So I'm generally hanging out there, and you can find me at Candace Spears. So just at first name, last name. I'm on just about every other social channel too, either with Candace Spears or CAND Spears.
Thank you for your time today. We have thoroughly enjoyed you. Thank you for all of your gems. Ladies, please make sure that you follow Candace and connect with her and support her business as she supports you in your journey to exit corporate America and go into full-time entrepreneurship. Thank you for your time.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.